Hey everybody, what's up? Wednesday, February 5th. I sent out the weekly copy of my EIA, Weekly Petroleum Report Analysis. If you'd like to get a copy of that, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com, and sign up for a 30-day free trial for MMT Trader. The link is in the description. Just off the top of my head, I have to say that the report didn't look too bad. I mean, we saw a build in crude oil inventories, but a lot of the other metrics in that report, demand, exports, imports, production, looked, I would say, leaning more towards the bullish side. But that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about, I guess, would fall in the category of mental game. You know, when pursuing success in trading and really in anything in life, I mean, and mental game is a broad category. I mean, there are a lot of elements and subtopics within the topic of mental game. All right, I've spoken in the past about language, how language is very important. The way we phrase things. And actually, if you read research from linguists, people who study language, they will tell you that language is the basis of all cognition, all understanding, all perception. It's very, very interesting. I mean, and it really is something, it is an understanding that we can apply to trading and investing and basically to success in life in general. Language, and it's often a thing that's overlooked, right? I mean, when it comes to trading, most people really focus in on the technical aspect of trading, like how do you buy, how do you sell? Is there some system that'll tell me when to buy and when to sell? I need to understand the analytics. I need to be able to forecast, right? We're more involved with the technical aspects as opposed to the mental aspects. And within that realm of the mental aspects, again, I'm focusing now on language. Language is so important. I talk a lot about having resilience and having mental toughness. That's great. I've mentioned language in the past, but it really is very interesting because it's the basis of all cognition. It's the basis of all understanding. When we communicate, we use language, and that's how we understand each other. Language is also the basis of perception. So like you hear people all the time say things, let's say they're in a bad position and say, I'm getting killed, I'm getting destroyed, the market is tanking, whatever, I'm getting squeezed, like all these metaphors that in real life, I mean, if you pluck out those words, killed, destroyed, squeezed, I mean, they have really negative connotations, right? And this is kind of transmuted to your brain. Your brain, it creates emotion. These are very emotional words. Now, the thing is, what's interesting about this is that you are free to choose your language. Now, I'm not talking about, choosing French or Russian or German, whatever I'm talking about the way your phraseology, the way you phrase things, the way you communicate things to yourself, the way you express things. That's up to you. And I'm sure you will find, if you've spoken to anybody successful, or if you've read about anybody successful, they generally have positive mental attitudes, and with those positive mental attitudes, that also includes the language that they use, the expressions that they use. There's a positive leaning to that, a positive connotation to that. And we don't think about this. I mean, many people really don't think about this when it comes to trading, but it is extremely important because, again, that elicits the emotion, and the emotion, once that gets injected into the equation, as probably most of you realize, that starts to affect decision making. And it's all about decision making. basically when it comes to markets, you want to remain calm. You want to understand that markets, the very nature of them, these price fluctuations, they're fluid. They're moving around all the time. So basically, if you have any position on, and this gets, now we're moving into something else that I've spoken about so many times. It's really an aspect of patience and an aspect of proper money management, in the sense that you are never overextended, and then that flows into another element of mental game, this neediness. People who are overextended, people who put themselves, let's say, in a position where they may be faced with a forced liquidation, a margin call, whatever. I mean, that really stems from a neediness, an inability to wait, right? Profits compound over time. I mean, if you look at a growth function, it goes like this, and then it slowly builds, and then it starts to go parabolic after a period of time. That's why they always talk about, really, it's time that makes you rich, if you think about it. I mean, the compounding of interest. I mean, if you start at a very young age, just interest and the compounding of that over time ends up into a parabolic move at the end. But most people don't want that. I mean, and that's a function of neediness, inability to control emotion. And neediness, I would say that neediness is the source of all unhappiness. It's the source of all anxiety. It's the source of all stress. Maybe not all, but a large amount of it is from neediness. Like, I need something now. I want something, that high levels of desire. Yeah, we all want that, but I mean, it's the ability to control that and to understand that may be off in a point in the future. But here's the thing, let's get back to language again. So it's really, obviously, you could see where I'm going with this. Like, it's really, really important to choose your phraseology in a way that supports what you are trying to do, which is obviously to make a profit and to be successful. So when you see a situation that is not working out for you, I mean, you really have to stay away from saying things like, I'm getting killed, I'm getting destroyed, this is terrible, this is horrible. That is just giving those messages to your brain. It is creating stress, it is creating discomfort, it is creating fear, raising up the levels of fear, raising up the levels of frustration, despondency. You get what I mean? And the beauty is, you can choose the language. You can choose what language you use. And you can always find a positive angle or a positive slant, or even if you can't find a positive slant, it's okay to say things are okay. I mean, no matter how bad things are in a trading aspect, there are a myriad of other things that could be worse in your life. I mean, think about it. You could be in a war zone. You could be dying from some horrible disease. Something could be happening to your kids if you have kids. I mean, look, I don't have to go through the examples. You know what I'm talking about here. So everything is relative. But what you have to do, and what you have to train yourself to do, is really, really be focused on language. And that doesn't only mean the language that you speak, but it is that language in your mind. It is you talking to yourself in your mind. It is the way you perceive things. Language is the basis of all cognition and all perception. It's an easy thing to control. Now the problem is, a lot of us are in this, and look, I'm guilty of this myself. All right, confession, I'm guilty of this myself. I've been doing this my whole life. It's a process for me. I work on myself. I tend to fall back into that kind of way of thinking. So I have to constantly be focused on that, and when I stray, when I get off track, I have to correct it. But you should try to do that too. It really works. And even, what I was about to say is, even when you cannot find something positive to say something positive anyway. You know what I say to my kids? I have this thing I say to my kids. A fake laugh is just as good as a real laugh. And you'll see, when you do a fake laugh, it ends up turning into a real laugh anyway. Same thing. A positive statement, even if there's nothing positive out there, is still a positive statement. Remember that. Bye.